What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Another Turnover, the basketball podcast where a basketball fan with no basketball credibility gives his opinions on what's going on in the NBA, opinions that nobody asked for. As always, I'm your host, Mr. Chris Aaron Murphy, aka Aaron, and ladies and gentlemen, let's just jump right into it. Folks, we are back with another episode. This is episode 72 of Another Turnover, the 72nd edition. But we are in season 3, episode 22 of season 3. And I am excited because the playoffs are in full swing. Like I've said before, this is the real regular season. I know the regular season is, your official 82 games, but this is what counts. This is where your name can either be etched in the annals of history or you can be forgotten about. And I'm here for it. But I basically, with this episode, I'm going to go through what has happened so far. So if you're a longtime listener, you know I usually record on Thursday nights. And there are games taking place right now, if I'm not mistaken. Let me double check. Well, there's at least some games happening tonight. I know at least 2 or 3 of them. So 6:30 Central Time will be the Brooklyn and the Philadelphia 76ers game. Tonight you also have Game 3, and that's Game 3 of that series. All Game 3s tonight, actually. You've got Golden State and Sacramento. That's Game 3 of that series. And then you have Phoenix and the Clippers. That is also Game 3. So by the time you're listening to this, my takes will either make a whole lot of sense or they will have aged like milk. Because, obviously, I won't know the outcome of these because I will have recorded this beforehand. But nonetheless, we are still going to have a wonderful show, and I'm excited to get into it. So let's start in the Western Conference, my favorite conference. Let's start there first, and we'll start with the number 1 ranked team, the Denver Nuggets, taking on the Minnesota Timberwolves. So this series right now is officially 2-0, with Denver winning the first 2 games at home against the Minnesota Timberwolves in mostly convincing fashion. Game 1 was 109-80, so that was pretty decisive. And then Game 2 was pretty interesting because you had Denver up by, about 20 some odd points at one point, I think in the third quarter. And then the Timberwolves stormed back in the third quarter, led by Anthony Edwards in that scoring effort, but ultimately fell to the Denver Nuggets 122-113. Now, I didn't expect much from this series. I still don't think this series is going to be long. If you remember on my playoff preview show, I don't think this is going to be a long, drawn-out series. I could potentially see possibly going 5, especially with the way that Minnesota played on yesterday, Wednesday. By the time you're listening to this, especially the way they played in that game, I'm like, okay, they can put some points on the board, but they're just not nearly as good or talented as the Denver Nuggets. Now, these games, like I said, based off what I saw in that Game 2 especially, these games may be somewhat competitive, but I would be surprised if it doesn't get wrapped up in 5 games, I would say. But now that Game 2, I did catch that game. That was like I said, a pretty nice comeback from the Minnesota Timberwolves. You had Anthony Edwards had 40 points in that game, or 41 points actually in that game. Had a phenomenal scoring effort. Obviously, ultimately wasn't enough. You had Jamal Murray putting in 40 points himself in that game. We haven't seen a 40-point playoff game from Jamal Murray since the bubble, when he was playing like the second coming of MJ in that series against the Utah Jazz, along with Donovan Mitchell, at the time for the Utah Jazz. But so far, these first 2 games, you got Jamal Murray is pretty much leading in the series leader. He's got 32 points average for the first 2 games, 5.5 rebounds, 6.5 assists. So playing pretty well. Nikola Jokic doing his thing, 20 points, 11.5 rebounds. Assist numbers are a little bit down. They're 7.5, 7.5 assists right now. But the Denver Nuggets, overall, just, playing better, shooting almost 50% from the field, shooting 42% from three-point range, versus Minnesota, who is shooting 43% from the field and 37% from three-point range, and only 71% from the free throw line. So, like I said, I don't expect this to be a long series at all. Give me the Denver Nuggets in 5 games based off what I have seen so far in this series. But let's go on to the next one. Let's talk about this one. Is the 4-seeded Phoenix Suns taking on the 5th-seeded Los Angeles Clippers. And these two games have been phenomenal to start the bat. You had game one, Clippers won that one on the road, 115 to 110. Kawhi Leonard had 38 points in that game. And then game two, you had the Suns winning that one pretty decisively. It was back and forth for a good while, but pretty decisively in the end. 123 to 109 with Devin Booker also putting in 38 points in that game. So pretty impressive and entertaining games back and forth. It was really cool to see Kevin Durant and Kawhi, excuse me. I'm so used to saying Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, but Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard going back and forth with each other, especially in that game one. I mean, as a Spurs fan, Kawhi left in the way that he did, not holding on to it anymore. I'm over it. Took me a couple years, but I'm over it now. But I really, with Kawhi Leonard being out of the lineup so much, or pretty much since, he left the Spurs, even with Toronto and now the Clippers, it's been fun to see him on the basketball court again at the highest level. I mean, the man can hoop. Like, Kawhi Leonard is, hats off to him. I mean, he's a 2-time Finals MVP for a reason. But it was just impressive the way he plays the game. He dictates the game at his own pace. He doesn't get rattled. I mean, he never shows any emotion. He dunks like this. And it's impressive. But that was a really fun matchup to see. From the Clippers side, Russell Westbrook, though, he struggled in that first game. I don't have his field goal percentage from that first game, but he was like 3 of 16 at one point, like 3 of 17. So he did not shoot the ball well, but did other things on the court in terms of hustle and made that defensive stop on Devin Booker towards the end of that game, which was pretty impressive. But then in game two, he bounced back. He went 9 of 16 from the field, had 28 points in that game, and only 3 turnovers. And I think he put in 5 boards and 5 assists. So Russell Westbrook, if he can be that for the Clippers, they might have a shot in this series. I'm still going with the Phoenix Suns. My original prediction was 6. Based off what I've seen right now, I'm gonna stick with that. But I would not be shocked if this potentially went 7. Now, there was some news that came out just before I was about to start recording the show. Obviously, Paul George, his place in the series is still up in the air. He's dealing with his injury. I can't exactly remember what his injury is right now off the top of my head, but obviously if he plays, that's huge. That's going to be huge for them. But unfortunately for the Los Angeles Clippers, Kawhi Leonard, news just came out that Kawhi Leonard is going to be out for game 3, which is tonight, if I'm not mistaken. I know I just looked that up, but I already forgot. Yeah, that game is going to be tonight, 9:30 Central Time, but Kawhi Leonard will not be playing, which absolutely sucks because he was just playing so well, like I said, those first 2 games. Currently averaging 34.5 points per game, 6.5 rebounds, and 6 assists. Putting on an absolute show for us fans. So hopefully he's able to come back. He's listed as day-to-day right now. I'm sure they're just being precautionary, but he sat out half the season. It's playoff times. If he is injured, he shouldn't play. But if he's hurt, you probably should play through that. Like, this is a crucial series. But it is what it is. But no Kawhi Leonard tonight for game 3. So I'm sure that is going to have a major impact on the game, and I would not be surprised if Phoenix obviously took advantage and won tonight's game 3. But that's the 4-5 matchup in the Western Conference. Let's go ahead and go to another really exciting matchup in the Western Conference. The Sacramento Kings and the Golden State Warriors. Sacramento is currently leading the series 2-0. So this series probably has the most drama out of all of the series so far. We know the Warriors, don't get me wrong, I like the Warriors. They're not my team, obviously. San Antonio Spurs, ride or die. But I like watching the Warriors play, but they do come with a lot of drama, particularly from one player, which I'll get to that in just a minute. But this Sacramento crowd, I'm really happy for them. I'm really happy to see Sacramento back in the playoffs. Those fans have been starving because I think they're the only show in town. I'm pretty sure they don't have any other major sports team. So the people in Sacramento love their Sacramento Kings, and they've stuck by them through these years and years and years and years of mediocrity. But that Sacramento Kings team, they're tough, they're gritty, and they know how to put points on the board. Game 1 winning 126 to 123. Game 2 winning 114 to 106. Now, as much as, we should be talking about Sacramento's play and what they've done well to beat the Golden State Warriors in these first 2 games, what are we talking about? Draymond Green. So Draymond Green was suspended. He will not play tonight's Game 3 for his stomp. It's a physical stomp on Domantas Sabonis in it was about 7 or 8 minutes in the fourth quarter, if I'm not mistaken, of Game 2. Now, I watched the replay multiple times. What happened? Draymond says Domantas Sabonis held onto his ankle, held onto his foot. And he did. Clearly, it showed in the video that Domantas Sabonis was holding onto his foot. Now, should Draymond Green have stomped on his chest? Absolutely not. That was wrong. He shouldn't have done that. At least, obviously, this is all my opinion. But should Draymond Green have been suspended for that specific instance? No, I don't think he should have. I mean, to suspend Draymond Green, going back to Golden State, they're down 0-2. Like, that's huge. That's pivotal. Like, I would say, like, if he did something incredibly egregious, like, here's how I think about it. Draymond Green would not have been in that situation if Domantas Sabonis was not holding on to his leg, to his ankle, or whatever you want to call it. So I'm not excusing his behavior, because what Draymond Green did was wrong after that. But at the same time, it reminds me of, the old saying, the clean version: the more you mess around, the more you're going to find out. And obviously, Domantas Sabonis found out in that particular instance. But nonetheless, Draymond Green was wrong for stopping, but I do not believe that warranted a suspension, especially in the playoffs in a critical Game 3. But hey, that's my opinion. What do I know? I'm not an NBA executive. I'm just a fan. But I'll be really interested to see what happens. Obviously, if Golden State goes down 0-3, they're done. No one's ever come back from an 0-3 deficit. I mean, could someone do it? Yeah, probably. Is this Golden State Warriors team capable of doing it? I don't think so. So obviously, Game 3 is, putting it lightly, a must-win situation for the Golden State Warriors. And I think they can do it. I mean, I think they'll probably end up winning. They're as bad as they've been on the road this year. Like, they're the worst or the second worst road record in the NBA. They have the third best home record this year, which is incredible. Like, how are they? I just don't get it. Like, I was like, are y'all not taking the same players on the road that you play at home? But it's crazy. I know role players typically play better at home, but yeah, I think Golden State will probably end up winning tonight. But let's see how poorly that take will age in the morning. If you're listening to this Friday morning, which most of y'all do. But anyway, last series in the Western Conference. This series is tied 1-1, 1 game apiece. Memphis and the Los Angeles Lakers. Now, as much as it pained me to do so, I did pick the Los Angeles Lakers, I believe, in 7 games to win this series. This one has been very entertaining so far as well. It sucks that this Memphis team is just so annoying, because I want to like them, but they haven't won anything to warrant all of the trash talk that they do. Like, it's just, I mean, Dylan Brooks, Ja Morant, who else on that team? I like Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane he seems like a pretty cool guy. But the rest of them, it's like, why are y'all doing all this chirping? Like, y'all have not won a championship. Y'all have not even made it to the conference finals as a unit yet. So it does suck, though. This series is kind of tainted as of right now. Ja Morant obviously injured his hand in that Game 1. I think he's still listed as day-to-day. I don't think he's out for the playoffs or anything like that. But the Los Angeles Lakers didn't take advantage. So they won Game 1, the Lakers that is 128 to 112, with a crazy run towards the end of the game, like 16-0 run, something like that. But then Game 2, no Ja Morant, he was out, and they didn't capitalize. Like, they lost 103 to 93. And I mean, it was like, how did Anthony Davis play in that game? Anthony Davis had 13 points and 9 rebounds in that game. Shot 4 of 14 from the field. Like, what the heck, Anthony Davis? Like, this, like, he's got to be their best player in this series. He's got to go at Jaren Jackson Jr. or any of the other Memphis Bays and just go off if they want to win this series. Like, they could have, got themselves in a great position going up 2-0 back to Los Angeles. But the way they won that game, I was like, where's the the fire from, or, the motivation from Anthony Davis to win this series, to win this specific game in game 2. So that kind of sucked to see that from the Los Angeles Lakers. If they want to win this series, like I said, AD's just got to be aggressive. He has to, be aggressive. But shout out to Rui Hachimura and Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves was, pretty much the reason that they actually won that game, that game 1. He went on a crazy run himself, but he also had a pretty good game. I mean, decent game in game 2. He had 12 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists. Shot 5 of 12 from the field. So, I mean, not the most efficient percentage, but shout out to Austin Reeves. Shout out to Rui Hachimura. The Lakers role players playing pretty well so far. And you don't really hear that with the LeBron team because his role players haven't always been the best. At least recently, that is. But I'm excited to see where this series goes. I really hope Ja Morant can come back and play. And he's somewhat healthy. I mean, give me 75% Ja Morant. I mean, they still, could potentially win this series. But if he does not come back in this series, Lakers, I mean, I still pick the Lakers even with Ja Morant, but I think the Lakers got this in the bag still. But 7 games. I want to see 7 games for them. But that's it for the West. Let's go ahead and transition to the Eastern Conference and take a look at what's happened so far in the playoffs. But the Milwaukee Bucks, number 1 ranked, best team in the Eastern Conference, playing against the 8th-seeded Miami Heat. That series is tied 1-1. And we have another series with another injury to a major star. Giannis Antetokounmpo, unfortunately, in Game 1, injured his back. And they have not said as of when he could come back. But, I mean, that sucks. Like, that's a huge blow to this Milwaukee Bucks team. But also, on the flip side, the Miami Heat, Tyler Hero broke his hand, unfortunately, and hit a 3 after he broke his hand with his shooting hand. That was pretty impressive. Big shout out to Tyler Hero for that. But Tyler Hero is also going to be out. They said at least until the finals. That's obviously if Miami Heat were to make the finals. That'd be the earliest he could come back. But so, I mean, he's pretty much done for the playoffs, which sucks because he's a huge bucket getter for them. Leaves a bit to be desired on the defensive end. But nonetheless, Tyler Hero, unfortunately, going to be out for the playoffs. So you've got 2 injuries to their major stars right now. But Miami Heat ended up winning that game 1, 130 to 117. But they got destroyed in that game 2. They were down by 35 at one point. Only ended up losing by 16. But they lost 138 to 122. So this series is definitely going to have to shift depending on when Giannis comes back. Chris Middleton's got to return to form. He's been injured in and out most of the season because I watched a good portion of Bucks games, and when he played, I'm just like, man, he is not the same guy. Because like in that 2021, that year that they won, like he was the man. Obviously, Giannis was the best player. Don't get me wrong, but Chris Middleton is a major reason why they won that championship, along with Drew Holiday and the other role players, Bobby Portis and things like that. But I could see this series going longer. I can't remember if I picked Milwaukee to win in 4 or 5. I think I picked them to win it, relatively quickly, but that was obviously with the health of Giannis Antetokounmpo and their other star players. I could see this series going longer with the injuries to Giannis and Tyler Hero, but I'm still going with the Bucks. I mean, I'm still riding with the Bucks. They were my preseason NBA champion, and I'm sticking with them. I hope, even though I really like what I see from Boston, but we'll get to that later. But hopefully, I think Giannis will end up being back before the series goes back to Milwaukee, because at least we're going to go back to Milwaukee for Game 5, and I think he'll probably end up playing in one of those Miami games. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. But the next series, the one I was most looking forward to, the most anticipated series for me, was the Cleveland Cavaliers and the New York Knicks, the 4-5 matchup. Currently, series is tied 1-1, one apiece. They split the first 2 games in Cleveland. The New York Knicks won Game 1, 101-97. The Cleveland Cavaliers won Game 2, 107-90. So a pretty impressive victory in the second game for the Cleveland Cavaliers, bouncing back after losing on their home floor in Game 1. Now, like I said, this was my most anticipated matchup. Predicted the Cavs to win this one in 7, and this is pretty much on par with what I thought was going to happen in this series. I really do think that they're going to split these first 4 games, and we are going to go back to Cleveland 2-2. I don't know if Cleveland will win game 3 or game 4. I could see them, if I had to put it on the line, I could say they'll probably win game 4 as it stands right now. But, they came out, on fire in game 2. Obviously, that was must win for them. You can't go back. You can't go down 0-2 going back to, your opponent's home floor. Like, if they were down 0-2 going in New York, oof, they'd be in trouble. But being down, or having series tie going on the road, you're all right. You're still in decent shape. But that game 2 was pretty bad. They crushed the Knicks for the most part. Like I said, I expect them to split this series, but it'll probably end up being a best of 3, 2-2 headed back to Cleveland. That's what I'm thinking. But so far, Donovan Mitchell has been the leader in terms of his point production. 27.5 points, 10.5 assists, shooting 48% from the field, 38% from 3-point range. Darius Garland has been no slouch though. 24.5 points, 4 assists, also shooting 57% from 3-point range. He's 8 of 14 so far in these first 2 games. I was like, holy cow, Darius Garland, all right, give yourself a bow. But Knicks players playing pretty well. You've got 23.5 points from Jalen Brunson, averaging 4 assists. Assist production is a little bit down, but Julius Randle putting up 20.5 points per game and 9 rebounds so far average. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what happens with this Knicks and Cavs series, just because I think it has also potential to go 7. And like I said, I'm sticking with the Cavs in Game 7. But next series, you got the 3-seeded Philadelphia 76ers taking on the 6-seeded Brooklyn Nets. Right now, Philadelphia 76ers lead 2-0, winning the first game 121-101, winning the second game 96-84. There's no other way to put this. I think this series probably gets wrapped up in 4. I think Philly probably ends up going 3-0 tonight. That's what I'm leaning towards. I mean, they're just a better team. Better team better as a unit, better talent. Obviously, Brooklyn is playing with players that, they got pretty much right at the trade deadline. So they're, still really learning how to play together. I know they had a couple months, but still this, this Philadelphia 76ers team has been together for a few years now. Shooting 46% from the field in this series, 41% from 3, and 90% from the free throw line. That's for the Philadelphia 76ers. Whereas you have the Brooklyn Nets, who are shooting the same percentage-wise from the field, but 36% from 3 and 66% from the free throw line. So leaving a lot of points on the line at the free throw line. They're also getting out-rebounded by about 11 rebounds, 47-36. But like I said, overall, Philadelphia just more talented. I mean, I don't even know what I wrote down here. Oh, I was just basically, talking about how, when the going gets tough, who's going to get the ball in Philadelphia. It's going to be Joel Embiid. It's going to be James Harden. Sometimes it's even going to be Tyrese Maxey. If he has it going, they're going to feed him. In Brooklyn, we don't really have that as of right now. Obviously, Mikal Bridges is probably the best player, but he didn't play that role as the go-to guy in Phoenix. He was the third best guy on the team. So it'll be it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. I think tonight will end up being competitive, being back in Brooklyn. But I think the Philadelphia 76ers end up pulling out this win, and they go up 3-0. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. But last series in the Eastern Conference, also probably going to be another quick one. You have the 2-seeded Boston Celtics taking on the 7-seed Atlanta Hawks. Boston leads this series 2-0 as well. Boston won Game 1, 112-99. They won Game 2, 119-106. This series is probably going to be a sweep. I mean, I don't see, after these first 2 games, series on. After these first 2 games, I don't see Atlanta beating the Boston Celtics. The Boston Celtics are pretty much just a matchup nightmare for them, especially on the defensive end. They were down, Boston that is. Atlanta came out on fire in Game 2, and I turned the game on. By the time I started watching the game, they were down by, it was 15, 16 points. I was like, holy cow. By the end of the first quarter, Boston was up by 3 points. So I was like, oh, that was quick. But like I said, they're pretty much just a matchup nightmare, especially on the defensive end. They're just too much for Atlanta to handle. I won't be surprised if they play tomorrow, Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised. Or no, excuse me, Friday. So listening to this today, I wouldn't be surprised if Boston goes up 3-0 in that series. I got to give a shout out to DeJounte Murray, though. 26.5 points, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, former Spur. To always be a Spur at heart. But Jason Tatum, I mean, he's got you with 27 points per game, 10.5 rebounds, 4 assists. You've also got other Hawks Celtics players. Derek White averaging 25 in these first 2 games, 6 boards, 4.5 assists. Jaylen Brown's got 23.5. Marcus Smart playing well, doing what he does, 12, 6, and 6. Malcolm Brogdon coming off the bench, giving you some pretty good production. So, I mean, overall, this Boston Celtics team should wrap this up. They should wrap it up in 4. Like, let's not mess around. Just go ahead and wrap it up in 4. But that's the breakdown of what's happened so far. Only 2 games into the playoffs for most teams, 3 games in for some teams by the time you're listening to this. But before we wrap up here, I want to get into the awards that have been announced, which, by the way, there was a award tonight that was announced for, as of 28 minutes ago. So let me go through these. So Coach of the Year, well-deserved, is none other than Mike Brown of the Sacramento Kings, getting the Kings to the 3rd best record in the Western Conference. Like I said, no one predicted the Kings being the 3rd best team in the Western Conference before the season. So shout out to Mike Brown. This is his 2nd time winning. First time he won was, I want to say it was 2009 with the Cleveland Cavaliers, back in LeBron's first stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I thought that was pretty cool. So congratulations to Mike Brown. First time ever award for Clutch Player of the Year. NBA, this is the first year they're doing that, is De'Aaron Fox, also of the Sacramento Kings. I don't know the statistics of how they pulled that for Clutch Player of the Year. Let me see. I'm assuming it's the most points within like a 2-minute stretch, but let's take a look. The voting was runaway. He led the league with 194 clutch points. So he got 91 of the possible 100 first place votes and 460 of the possible 500 votes. So De'Aaron Fox, the clear-cut clutch player of the year. So shout out to De'Aaron Fox. Defensive player of the year was Jaren Jackson Jr. from Memphis. He also had a really good season as well. I want to go back to who I picked for. Oh, no, I didn't predict who the defensive player of the year was going to be. But I'm not surprised by that. Jaren Jackson Jr., great on the defensive end. He just fouls too much. He needs to learn how to not had people playing defense. But this award just got announced 20 minutes before I went on the air. And that is the 6th man of the year goes to none other than Malcolm Brogdon of the Boston Celtics. So now, if you remember, Malcolm Brogdon used to play for the Milwaukee Bucks, and he was their starting point guard. So he could be starting on quite a few teams. But the fact that he has accepted his role of 6-man is commendable, is respectable. I mean, obviously, as a Spurs fan, Manu Ginobili did the same thing. He could have been starting for years for another team, but accepted that role that was a spark plug off the bench. And he usually finished games in San Antonio as well. But yeah, shout out to Malcolm Brogdon, 6th man of the year over, who was in the running? Who were the finalists for that? Let's see. Emmanuel Quickley from the New York Knicks was also considered, and Bobby Portis from the Milwaukee Bucks. So pretty good competition to win that for that particular award. But we still have 3 awards that we don't know the results for as of yet. We have the Most Improved Player, which is either Jalen Brunson from New York Knicks, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander from the Oklahoma City Thunder, which I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to get it, and then Lauri Markkanen from the Utah Jazz. Rookie of the Year, Paolo Banchero, which he pretty much should be the runaway. I think he's going to win it. But you also got Walker Kessler, and Jalen Williams from the Oklahoma City Thunder is also considered. And then you have the MVP, your top dog award, individual award for the year. Giannis Antetokounmpo of the Milwaukee Bucks, Joel Embiid from the Philadelphia 76ers, and Nikola Jokic from the Denver Nuggets. You know my pick. I think it should be Nikola Jokic, but I think Embiid will probably end up winning it, but we'll see. But those are the awards, and that is the playoffs so far in a nutshell. And that is all the time I have for you folks. So if you could do all the good things, like I say every week, like, share, subscribe, leave comments, I would greatly appreciate it. Follow on the socials at Another Turnover, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram. I think those are all the socials that I have. I can't remember. But anyway, I hope you enjoy yourself some playoff basketball if you're going to be watching this weekend, or whatever it is that you do. I hope you do it with the people that you love the most and you have fun doing it. But anyway, take care, have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.
Just too quick for it, peeling off like the whip orange. Seen they effort, this piss poor. I got too much, I gotta tend to. Car payments and the rent due. Told y'all that I'm 6 foot, but with the money statement, I'm 10 too.